Ladies and gentlemen, how are you doing? Welcome back to another video on the channel. This is Dave Cube back with another video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about one game that I think changed a lot of the gaming landscape in Africa as a whole. And that game is Call of Duty Mobile. It's kind of set off something in the gaming scene in Africa where everyone started playing games like all of a sudden. My point is it's revolutionized gaming in Africa, and I'm here to give you the how and why I think it was so impactful in the first place. Okay, so let me set the scene for you. The year is 2014. PS4s are fresh into the market and Xbox is losing steam from the 360 era because Xbox Ones were not as popular in Nigeria. But high-end gaming generally was relegated to PCs and consoles, and anything that you wanted to play that was a big game that time, you had to go on PlayStation or Xbox. But now, in that same time period, mobile games were beginning to actually become popular. Games like Killer Bean and Sniper 3D, those were two mobile games that were picking up in popularity way back then because of their action-packed nature, and there was clearly a market for that, but then there was not a lot of games going around to meet the market at that point. All the mobile games then were basically Candy Crush, Subway Surfers, Temple Run, you know the vibe. But one game in 2015 or thereabout came out, and that game would change the way Nigerians interact with action games, and that game was none other than Mini Militia. Mini Militia was one of those games where everybody was on Mini Militia. If you didn't play Mini Militia, you missed out. And I didn't play Mini Militia, unfortunately, because those were the times back then. But Mini Militia was a very successful game, especially in Africa, because of its local multiplayer experiences that was more than action-packed. Everybody was playing the next person, trying to beat them in a lobby, and it was just that multiplayer experience that brought people together under one game that was Mini Militia. But that hype did not last long for Mini Militia, as a couple more games would come out that would contest for its popularity, introducing the multiplayer games. And these were the games that were actually multiplayer, because Mini Militia's biggest feature that was local multiplayer. These games were online multiplayer, meaning that they had to connect to the internet to get played. And these were games like PUBG and Free Fire. PUBG came out 2018, Free Fire 2019. And in that time period, everyone was more or less on board with the idea of a game that you could connect to, get into a game, play with actual people, and then just have a fun time. And these games quickly became popular in Nigeria because they all were of basically the same bread and butter that Mini Militia was cut out from. They had a very fun multiplayer experience, and it was also action-packed. Now, these games, even though they were popular, there was always a feeling like it wasn't quite at the point where it wanted to be yet. Sure, the games were popular. PUBG was very popular. Free Fire was very popular. But then came the issue of things like low quality or a lack of polish in the games, and sometimes connection issues, which will definitely ruin your experience if you are a multiplayer gamer. And then all that aside, the games were still very popular, but then there was this gap between where the games could be and where they were currently. Then Call of Duty got released and basically shattered the whole competition in Nigeria. Before COD Mobile could be brought into existence, Activision, the owner of the Call of Duty franchise, had to basically make a game for the mobile experience, because all their previous titles, even though they are Call of Duty themselves, they were all on PC and console. So in collaboration with a company called Tencent, they were able to make a Call of Duty game that was very tailored to the mobile phone experience. It could run on almost any modern day hardware as at the time it came out, and it was also able to run with relative settings on lower end hardware as well. In the time that COD Mobile came out, I was fresh out of secondary school and entering university, and it was in that kind of setting that I got to see how popular Call of Duty Mobile was becoming and how it was taking over the narrative of gaming very quickly, especially in institutions with young adults like the university. So from day one, I had a roommate that was playing Call of Duty. My neighbors soon joined playing Call of Duty, and before I knew it, everybody was playing Call of Duty. But then I unfortunately wasn't part of the initial hype because I my phone couldn't run Call of Duty. So I had to stick with Free Fire until I eventually changed my phone. And then I joined on the Call of Duty bandwagon, the Call of Duty hype train. And from there, I could see firsthand while the game was taking over. The gameplay, the graphics, the multiplayer experience, those three things were so well done. Those three things were so well done by Call of Duty that any other game was being compared to Call of Duty, even though they were games that were released prior to Call of Duty. It was clear that the experience of making Call of Duty games was well translated by Activision and Tencent into Call of Duty Mobile. And that, for one, I think is what makes it very engaging, and it also made it very successful. Overall, Call of Duty was straight up awesome because it was a combination of experiences of making Call of Duty games translated into a proper mobile experience. So well done and so well tailored for the mobile experience that contributed to its popularity and its success in Nigeria. For the rest of the world, it would have obviously been successful because it's the rest of the world. Anything that is successful in the rest of the world will definitely be successful in Africa. But then this is an experience that a lot of Nigerians could access, and everything just clicked. That gap of the lack of polish and everything got closed. And that's what I think sealed Call of Duty as one of the most popular games in Nigeria. Now, in the life following Call of Duty, that's post-release and after its year of, success and everything, the online space would be flooded with Call of Duty content. Soon after the game was released, all those clips would go viral. Even clips from Nigeria were going viral in Call of Duty Mobile. More content creators basically came out due to Call of Duty Mobile's emergence. And it was just a whole ecosystem that kept growing and growing and growing, and it was very progressive with the more game content that they added. And Call of Duty was also popular for popularizing a lot of gaming culture that we see overseas in Nigeria. Buying in-game currency, buying battle passes, and basically grinding for skins and camos and everything like that. Those were not habits that were conventional with regular gaming in Nigeria. Gaming previously was just pick up the game, play, when you're tired, you drop it and you go. It was just to enjoy the game simply. But then when Call of Duty came out, it came with more changes in behavior, such as making microtransactions more popular in Nigeria and also popularizing a whole other aspect of gamer culture, like grinding, ranking up, just everything you think of when you think of gamer culture was popularized due to Call of Duty Mobile. And that's one thing that Call of Duty has on its own belt, is that it popularized a lot of gaming culture for Nigerians. But of course, that popularity was not also without its challenges. Call of Duty also had to face the infrastructural challenges that Africans dealt with on a normal day basis, because network issues, the whole random lag thing. Because of network issues, the infrastructural challenges ran deep in Africa as a whole, because of the lack of support for general games like PlayStation, Xbox, and other online platforms. A lot of them don't have a lot of them don't have servers in Africa. I made a video about it. I'll link it in the description also. That whole bumpy ride of trying to adapt to the new challenges of being on online games was just not worth it at the time. So in 2022, 3 years later after Call of Duty initially launched, according to reports, Activision actually deployed a server in South Africa to more or less help with the lagging issues and connection issues that a lot of African countries faced for Call of Duty. Now, that was huge because it also opened the door for international interactions that weren't just limited by connection issues. We could connect with other countries easily, we could play other people from other countries easily, and it also brought about the advent of esports in a sense, because with better connection comes more, like minds rubbing together, and then comes the collaboration efforts by byproduct, a collaboration effort to basically host tournaments that will probably be international. I know we've had multiple core tournaments at this point, stemming from, I don't really know the specific date. I'll put it up on the screen, but at that point, from the servers were just a step up to getting to a better point where the community with the global audience and Africans was more well knit, and it was just a good thing to see that happen in Call of Duty Mobile. So, in conclusion, COD Mobile was one of the few games that came out and gave a high fidelity experience when compared to other mobile games at the time, and also in the process formed a community of gamers and a subset of gaming culture in Africa and in Nigeria that would later spread on to accepting other games and becoming more involved in gaming culture in a sense. Not just the standard FIFA, PES, although those are also contributors to the gaming culture in Africa. But Call of Duty Mobile was one of the few games that came out that cemented that kind of culture in Africa. And that is why I think Call of Duty Mobile revolutionized gaming in Africa as a whole. Thanks for watching to the end if you made it this far. Thank you so much. It means a lot. Please just let me know what you think of the video, and let me know if also you're a gamer, if someone you're playing games. Are you deep into Call of Duty? Is this just like your first time hearing of the game? Let me know in the comments below. And also don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.